Well, we're live. We're here,
Hello, good morning.
with Andy, the Mad Tatter, all the way from the UK. I was going to say sunny UK, but I'm not sure it's too sunny over there.
It actually is today. It's pretty nice, I've got to say. I actually live near the airport, and because there's been no flights coming in and out for the past week or so, the air's really clear, and there's not been any cloud cover or anything. It's quite nice.
That's one of the bonuses of this crazy time is how nature is rejuvenating itself. It's pretty cool to see that sort of stuff. I really like it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the world will always take itself back.
Before we get too far into conversation, we had a nice sort of 10-minute chat before we even came on. So we'll say good day to a few people in the chat before we get too carried away. But looks like Robin B was in first. I know she's up on her property at the moment.
Veggie garden is
making
coming
some veggie
along.
gardens, and they're doing their shed and stuff soon. So they're rocking away. Michael's in. Thanks for coming along.
Thank you very much.
You support. I support thank you, Andy. I support the Crows, obviously, because they're a quality team. You guys probably wouldn't know too much about that. Cookie and Hayden, Chris is in, getting so close to 2K. Yeah, that has snuck up on us. That's kind of little.
Yeah, I noticed that the other day.
Adam's in. Hey, Adam. My empty hanger, Melbourne. Thanks for popping in, Donna.
Hey, the kitty's here.
Cajun's in. Donna May. Hey, everyone. Zach's in as well. Die over Flipper. Whoa, that did something weird.
Yeah, it always does.
Okay, it's doing extra weird stuff now. Brad, thanks for coming in. Flipping Sydney. Gary. Matt. What I am. Matt's what I am.
Matt's what he is.
Matt. Okay, Matt, good to see you. There's Cara, our good friend.
Hi, so friend.
We've been messaging each other pretty regularly, because usually we would have hung out by now or gone op shopping. So it's getting a bit we need to go out.
Yeah, I bet you're all having. I bet you've got collective withdrawal symptoms there.
She's sending photos of her dogs to us, and we're sending photos of the cat. So that's the only interest there.
Mum is in.
Jazzy's mum's here, we can get going, we can get cracking. That's good. Toby's in. Heaps of people. So thanks everyone for coming. We'll try and catch up.
Oh, it's been rolling by.
Oh man, that was not good. Something bad happened. Shirley's here. Bree as well. Thank you for coming.
Wow. Full house.
What in? They'll come to see Andy.
All right, the hour's nearly up.
Shazad, thanks Shazad. Thanks for coming. Look, Mom, Hustling. You know all about them. The Panther. I think we're caught up. All right, we're good. We can.
You did well.
We can commence. We've said hello to everyone in chat. If we did miss you, we are sorry. We are here with our main man Andy tonight to have a bit of a.
It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for ages. It just sort of hasn't occurred yet. So I'm glad we scheduled it. It's been a long time.
definitely absolute pleasure to be here, guys.
Well, thanks for spending some time with us. I did want to ask before we get going, how's the foot going?
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's a kind of it's at that dangerous stage at the moment where I think I can do more with it than I can. I can put my weight on it and stuff now, and I can walk around a lot more than I was able to the other week. But occasionally I'll feel like I'm a lot more recovered than I am. So I'll sort of jump up, and then it'll go right in the bottom of my foot, and I think,
yeah, I often think I can do more than I can, and then I try to do a push up and it doesn't work. So that's just not from injuries.
Same. Yeah.
My mom's
nothing to do with that, but that's just the same anyway.
My mom's here as well, so all the moms are here. So we've got Mum, we've got Jazzy's mum, and we've got my mum. So we can get cracking. Georgine's here as well. Jody, thanks for popping in. I think that's everyone. I think we've covered everyone. So
Frank's here, and I can't remember if we said Frank.
Did we say Thrifter got me Frank?
I don't know.
As well. All right,
we can spend a whole stream just introducing everybody.
I know.
Really
it feels like we haven't been on for a little while, so I feel like I just have to say hello to everyone. But yeah, we've been talking about chatting for a while. Obviously, you sort of initially you didn't get in front of the camera. You were doing a lot of streams behind the camera. So now you're out. And what sort of prompted you to decide that you wanted to do more of this sort of face-to-face interaction stuff?
Peer pressure. Really, to be quite honest. It was one of those things where when I set off, I never really wanted to put myself in front of the camera, because I never really wanted the videos and the content to sort of come across like I was making it about me. I always wanted it to be very much about reselling and what I can potentially help people learn in that respect. But as sort of time went on, and you know, there was never a confidence issue with it or anything like that. I was lead singer in a rock band for quite a while, and you know, being in front of people, being in front of people and talking to people is no issue to me whatsoever. So it wasn't like it was a confidence thing. I just didn't want to come across as though I was kind of trying to make myself the star of the show, if you like. So after I'd done a few videos like that, they kind of had reasonable success and whatnot. And then it was Car Boot Chris that was saying, you know, you should get on camera more, get on camera more, get on camera more. And then he invited me to come on one of his lives. I did a live with Chris, which was the first live I went on. And then from there on, I just thought, yeah, I'll get in front of the camera. You know, it's not too much of an issue. I think I can still sort of represent reselling pretty well without making it about me, sort of thing. So I did one video which was a little bit of an introduction to me and my background, which felt really awkward because it just felt like I was blowing my own trumpet for the whole video. But I just wanted to get that kind of thing out of the way so people could go and check on, like, if you like, my credentials. Oh no, don't apologize, Chris. I'm not having, you know, I'm not having a go. But yeah, you are responsible for inflicting my face on the world. But yeah, so yeah, it was just, you know, it's been going on from there, really. And I now broadly am doing the same sort of thing that I would have done off camera, but instead of having to kind of make some sort of PowerPoint presentation or some sort of thing to actually have a visual aspect to it, I can just talk to the camera and it just be me talking. So
yeah,
it's an interesting view because we want to get to know you and to get your personality as well. So
that's what I love about
yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Yeah, no, fair enough. I mean, I'm quite happy to kind of talk. I'm quite happy. I sort of divide myself a little bit in a way between professional and personal. So I kind of see the YouTube, when I started the YouTube channel, I saw that as being more of a professional outlet. So it was kind of more informational and, you know, very much on point, on topic, all business. But obviously now I've been on there a little bit more and done that one video where I kind of just talked about myself for half an hour. It's kind of made me think, yeah, I can, you know, blend it a little bit, but I still don't ultimately want it to just be a platform for me to stand there and go, well, hey, aren't I great? Because I'm not about that.
I think me personally is I like to learn more about like the person and how they sort of got to where they are now, and you know what pushed them to be a reseller. So yeah, like I watched a lot of your early what sold videos and stuff, and yeah, they were like, it was really cool. But then once you started coming on camera with like Chris and you're on Mel's as well, it's like it kind of gives you the person behind the story, I suppose, and it kind of gives you that like closer bond with the person. I think like you can kind of like relate to them a lot more. So in terms of reselling, like I know you've spoken about it a few times now, but what was the spark that made you go reselling is where I want to be? Like what was that thing that pushed you in the direction you are now? Yeah,
so I've always had a bit of an interest in buying and selling different things. And I've worked professionally in a few environments where we're dealing with secondhand and pre-owned goods. So whether that's been when I've worked in the jewelry trade, I was a pawnbroker. So we were buying and selling gold, jewelry, watches, things like that. When I was in the motor trade, I worked in the used car department. So there was a lot of taking in part exchanges, reselling vehicles and stuff like that as well. So there's always been that little bit of an element to my professional life to a certain degree. Then a couple of years ago, I found a channel, a big US channel, Resale Rabbit. Now, he's not one that you hear people talk about an awful lot for some reason, but I think he's awesome. He was the one that really kind of sparked the interest in doing it as a job, you know, in just kind of going and buying any general things and selling them and making profit. He sparked that interest with me. I think And it, like you said there about being relatable, he was the most relatable person creating this type of content that I found at the time. Because we had a similar background. He'd come from a motor trade background as well, albeit he'd have had a nicer office than me if we worked in the same dealership. So it's and just sort of his mannerisms and his personality and stuff, I found him quite relatable. So I ended up watching a few of his videos, and one where he bought pallets of Amazon returns, that really kind of hit me, that he was buying all this return product and selling it for a profit. And that made me think, God, yeah, I could do that, no problem at all. So then I started looking a bit further afield into other channels, found a couple of UK channels and stuff like that, found that people were doing it over here as well. And then from there, and then from there, I just kind of started doing it a little bit as a part-time thing. just sold a few of my own bits and pieces from around the house, and then Jo kind of got a bit of a bite of it as well. And she had a lot of stuff that she'd been collecting, Disney stuff and things like that, and she just wanted it out of the way. So we got that sold. And then when she started seeing the money coming in from the stuff that she'd sold of her own as well, she got bitten by it a little bit. And then from there, the job that I was working in at the time, essentially my wife fell ill while I was working there, and my mum was ill at the time as well. Oh, wow. And my wife doesn't drive, and my mum was ill to the extent that she wasn't driving at that point. They're both, you know, managing conditions and stuff now. They're absolutely fine within, you know, that realm of having those conditions. But at the time, it was kind of a lot of going back into hospitals, doctor's appointments, things like that, while things were being diagnosed. And I said this to my employer. I said, look, you know, there's a chance I'm going to need to kind of take, you know, a little bit of time out here and there just to kind of run to appointments with my mum or my wife or whatever. And the answer that I got given point blank was, don't make your problems company problems. Wow. Yeah. And this was after the person who said that to me had a fairly major health scare themselves a couple of months prior. And I'd worked a load of overtime and come in on days off and stuff like that to cover for him to go off for his appointments and whatnot. And then when it came to me asking basically for a return of the favor, if you like, I was told, you know, don't make your problems company problems. So I completely mentally checked out of that business instantly. And to be perfectly honest, I think it's the only job that I would ever have had a risk of being sacked from. Because of the extent to which I just completely switched off to it after that comment. Something like that's never happened to me before. You know, nobody's ever said anything like that to me under the sort of, you know, guises of working for them. So I just thought, I couldn't believe that. And I think it will stick with me forever, those exact words. And I can still see the guy's face as he said it to me as well. It's not like it's kind of emotionally scarring, but it's just really like, I couldn't believe somebody could be that callous about something.
It's brutal. Like that's next level. It's just like so in your face and so like clean cut. Like I think that's why a lot of us sort of try and move into a reselling space, is because we don't want to have to report to other people. We want to make our own money and make our own time. So
that would stick with me, that comment. And you can tell from the way you said it, you can still hear it when you're saying it.
Yeah. So so from that, I'd kind of been doing a little bit of the reselling and you know, sort of gearing up to thinking this is something that I do actually want to make a job out of and make a long-term, you know, lifestyle out of. So why not just jump in and get cracking straight away? Really bad idea. I would never encourage anybody to sort of jump both feet first into being a full-time reseller straight away, because honestly, what it does to you from a stress perspective and your own, you know, state of mind and stuff like that when you're first getting established, and every bit of money that comes in you're relying on for bills or rent or whatever, and if you're not quite there 1 month or anything like that, it's an absolute nightmare. So I would definitely never advise anybody to rush to be a full-time reseller at all. You know, definitely have a plan, have some like you guys have done in many respects. You know, I've seen a lot of people say to you guys, and I would concur with what I've seen other people say, you're probably in a position where you could go full time if you really wanted to, from the sort of figures that you're doing. But obviously I can appreciate your situation is what your situation is, and you want to, you know, carry on as you are. But having that grounding of doing it as successfully as you've been doing it on a part-time basis, when you do come to doing it full-time, you'll be so well geared up for it and so well prepared for going into the full-time lifestyle of doing it that it almost won't feel like a bump in the road to you, I don't think. Whereas jumping onto it, whereas just jumping straight into it, you kind of, the pressure's on straight away.
Yeah, definitely. I'll just quick shout out to Leanne for dropping us a £2 super chat. Can't stay, we'll watch back later. Thank you very much,
If you're still
Leanne.
here, have a really good day. Thank you so much.
Jazzy's auntie has dropped in as well. Kerry is in the US and it's 4 a.m. over there at the moment. So,
what are you doing?
Thanks for joining us. We won't be offended if you have to go back to sleep.
Oh
international delegation today.
I know, right? Yeah, it is interesting. Like, I think jumping in head first like works in some ways because you have to make it work. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have another option.
Some pressure can be good.
But yeah, I think our situation at the moment is like Jazzy's work's finished up, and obviously because of all the COVID stuff, there isn't a lot of work around. So luckily, she got a little bit of redundancy, and we're hoping that she's not looking for work until this is over. So, or at least calming down.
Yeah, maybe not in this peak period.
So I guess we're kind of like expecting that eBay is going to pick up some of that bill at some point. But one good thing about the last sort of 3 weeks good and bad, is we haven't been sourcing. So we haven't been spending money hand over hand every weekend, because we do spend a lot of money every week when we go sourcing. So
yeah, same. So I've made a bit of a saving there, definitely, and also I use a PayPal debit card, PayPal business debit card, to pay for everything. And they've actually increased the amount of cash back that they're giving at the moment as well, in view of the COVID thing. So at the moment, it's working out okay. I mean, it's not a huge amount of cash back, don't get me wrong. It's gone up from like 0.5% to 1%. But like the other day, I went and spent 75 quid at the post office posting my parcels. So when that went on the PayPal card, I got 1% cash back on that. And it's kind of one of those things where every little's got to help at the moment, because there is that much uncertainty as to, what's it going to be like tomorrow? What's it going to be like next week? I think we're in a more uncertain time than we've ever been. So kind of being able to maximize as much money coming in and as little money going out as possible is quite an important sort of consideration at the moment.
Definitely. Well, we did outsource some questions as well to our little Instagram community. So we've got a few questions that were sent to us through Instagram. So you touched on a little bit before about your music career. So that's not the music career one. We're doing well tonight. We're going really well. So do I have a flip around good mate Jutta or Brad? Can we hear a little bit about your musical background? And he's hashtagged it Cheesy Weasel.
Yeah, I was talking to Brad about that a few weeks ago, and he has actually seen a couple of the performances that I did in the band from back in the day. So if you do search for Cheesy Weasel as all one word, you'll find a couple of songs and a couple of recordings from about 2006, I want to say. So they were from quite a while ago. There's one live recording on there, which is the first sort of stage show that I ever did, and you sort of see the lights come up, and simultaneously as you see the lights come up, you see my knees give way slightly, because it was the first time on stage, so it was like these lights come up and I go but yeah, that went okay. And then there's a couple of sort of stuff that we've done, like a little bit more studio recorded, that we've just kind of made crazy videos for and stuff like that. There's only about 3 or 4 songs on there, but I was in that band for about 6 years, and we weren't, a massive touring band or massively successful band or anything like that. We were just a bunch of guys who really enjoyed it. And I think our biggest audience, we played a local beer festival for about 1,700 people, and it was a really good, it was a really great experience, and it was just really enjoyable generally, and it's one of those things that I've taken a lot of learning from and applied to my reselling as well, because I now know a lot more about that type of environment. So things like guitars, amps, microphones, drums, everything that sort of goes around music production and stage music production, you kind of get a little bit of experience for that. And if you hang on to the experience of everything that everything that you ever do, really, if you can call back to a little bit of that experience to buy stuff and sell it for your reselling business, then, you're onto a winner, really. But yeah, we were sort of a blues rock band. We did covers and we did a few of our own bits and pieces as well.
I think that's quickly. First thing I'm going to be doing after this stream is jumping on and finding those videos. Second thing, I think like a lot of us have life experience that we don't really realize we have. So for myself, like I used to work in a sports store, and I apply that to every day when I'm sourcing. Like I'm looking for brands that I knew back then. I'm looking for the high end, high-end quality stuff that sells for a lot of money. Like a good example is like Asics Keanu. It's a $200 plus shoe, and when we find them secondhand, we can still sell them for between 45 and 60, depending on condition. So I think a lot of us have that sort of ingrained knowledge. We just probably don't realize that we have it. Like it's just normal.
I always say that everybody's an expert in something, whether you realize it or not. And as soon as you can kind of start to tap into that hidden expertise, or that expertise that you just don't realize is expertise, you start to sort of, you can even potentially carve out a completely unique niche for yourself if it's not something that people are, doing a lot of. I mean, it can be anything. It can be professional, it can be personal, it can be hobbies, interests. You know, if you're massively obsessively interested in something as a hobby, for instance, I always think that you're the best placed person to be able to sell that hobby to somebody else who's potentially interested in it, because you've got the passion and the knowledge for that idea or for that concept. So to be able to pass that on to other people and sell your products, everybody's an expert in doing that with something, I think.
Oh, definitely. Like it, yeah, there's so many like life skills that, you know, you pick up that you probably don't realize are useful for reselling, but they all flow in at some point.
It's all transferable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cara's saying we're probably saving a fair bit of money at the moment.
So much, Cara.
Very true. Until we decide to buy some local deal, I'm sure. Andy has brilliant vocals.
I'm looking forward to
Cheesy
it.
Weasel is great. Chris is asking if it's on YouTube.
Yeah, they're on YouTube, yeah. If you search for Cheesy Weasel Perfect Crime, Perfect Crime is a song I wrote the lyrics for as well, so there you go.
Zach doesn't know where his picking passion comes from, but you are right. Tommy Bernhard has dropped in as well. I apologize. My must have closed. Can we start over?
Well, we've already dropped ourselves out once.
Yeah, we've
we'll
cancelled our own stream at one point and just let Andy go.
Oh, is that what happened there, was it? I thought you were just kind of playing around with camera angles and stuff. I didn't realise I was on my own.
I managed to go back and it kicked us out of the stream. So
everyone else could hear you, though. We just couldn't hear you.
You were keeping the show going there. You were the star. We were just fumbling around in the background like amateurs. So these
Thank you, Tommy.
But thank you for the $4.99. Really appreciate that, Tommy. And thanks for coming in. I know it's nice and early over there as well. After stream, check out this here link.
There it is. Save that one.
Yeah.
Tommy reckons he missed the good stuff. He did miss some good stuff. So you have to go back and watch it. Watch us fail.
The next question, the pushback to Brad on that one about, you know, the band there is, when are we setting up an international reseller band on YouTube?
Oh, yeah, Brad knows all right too. He's pretty handy on the guitar and vocals as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'll contribute with like the triangle or something. It's not going to be good, but
pushing. Yeah. You can be our Bez. Are you familiar with Happy Mondays and Bez? Does that travel to Australia?
Very vaguely, but not well. Yeah.
Yeah, essentially, Happy Monday is just kind of a 90s Mancunian band, and Bez was essentially their dancer. He was just a mate of the band, and to get him in the band, he was just like, they just said he was their dancer, but he played the maracas and stuff like that. He was always out of his face because it was the 90s in Manchester, and everybody was out of their face. But yeah, that was kind of the reference.
But, yeah, to be fair, the last time I danced, I almost broke my ankle.
Oh,
so
you did actually.
look, it's not going to go well. Tommy's asking if it's going to be a Village People cover band. That's probably around the track that it would go down, I reckon. There's a few in the reselling community that have had like music careers though, so could happen. It could happen. We'll just copyright that right now. Us and Andy have that down. So
yeah.
Makes that on.
Yeah.
Brad did ask a bit of a serious question as well, and I think it's a pretty good one. What are some new sourcing methods you have learned during the apocalypse? So Andy, do you want to kick that off? And I guess I'll throw that to the chat as well, because I guess we're all doing different things in these times to like either try and get stock or deal with what we've already got. So do you want to kick that off?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, first thing for me is I haven't actually been out in any of my normal sourcing routes or opportunities for about 2 or 3 weeks now. You know, all the shops are closed over here. There's not a sort of total lockdown, but we're in a kind of, I would say, about an 80% lockdown with only essential businesses open and things like that. So I've not been able to get out. All of the kind of car boot sales, which would normally have been starting up just at this time for the spring, none of those have started up, obviously, either. Hi, Mel. So I've had none of the usual sourcing opportunities. Luckily, did have a bit of a death pile, as we were talking about just before we came on. So I was able to draw from the death pile a little bit. I've also done a little bit of thrifting around the house just to see if I can find any other bits and pieces. And I have actually found a PlayStation 2 that I didn't know I had. So getting that prepped up for sale and everything. So there's a couple of bits and pieces coming there. But moving forward, I am looking at the possibility of buying some electronic returns pallets from a wholesaler. that's the avenue that I'm potentially going to look to go down if this lasts long enough that I run out of stock or run out of opportunities to acquire more stock. Then I will definitely be looking at the wholesale kind of electronics avenue.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a good option, and we're sort of looking at like auctions, online stuff, local bulk deals where we can just go pick stuff up and not have to worry about like sourcing at multiple locations, because our op shops are still open, but well, some of them we're not going near them because we're a pretty firm believer of like trying to slow this thing down and stay indoors when we can. Even though I had a massive itch the other day that I wanted to scratch and go.
It's been a bit stir crazy with it, definitely.
Oh,
you just wake up some mornings and think, oh, I'm going to go out today, and oh no, I can't. It's just like you wake up almost on autopilot thinking, oh yeah, it's thrifting day or whatever, and then you realize, oh shit, I can't.
Yeah, it's really weird. Those who don't know, this is Kara's partner, husband, and he's saying that she's selling all his stuff. So
I've seen evidence of that. There were games going out that were not Kara's.
It's my stuff.
Yeah,
now.
actually, yeah. I saw a few things on Insta, and I thought they didn't look like Kara's normal type of stuff. So yeah, that explains where that's come from. Then yeah.
House thrifting turns into looting.
Everyone's saying g'day to Kain. I turned off international today as I had an overnight sale to India, which we can't send to.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a question.
That must be such a nightmare for you guys.
Sorry, what?
That must be such a nightmare for you guys, because obviously you don't have the GSP over there, which is absolutely invaluable, because GSP are still taking orders to anywhere. So I've sent stuff out the other day via GSP to places like Italy and stuff like that are on a massive massive lockdown, but GSP is still accepting parcels for them. So that's like, that's kind of a kick in the nuts for you guys in many respects. I do think, I don't understand why eBay do this, and that they kind of give certain people in certain territories more tools than other territories. It doesn't make sense. Like the UK, eBay UK, we've got pretty much everything that they've got in eBay USA, and our market isn't nearly as big as the USA market, and probably not as big as the Australian market potentially is either, from just a population perspective.
I think you've got more population than us. I think you've got about 3 times as many.
Oh really? That's just a density thing then.
Yeah.
But even so, you look at the likes of like DBG that was in before, eBay Ireland, you would think that being so close to the UK and Ireland and the UK having this sort of historically, all right, admittedly a little bit turbulent in sometimes, but historically a relatively close relationship, you would think that they would get a lot of the same tools that we get. But if anything, they've probably got, they're probably on the same sort of level that you guys are in Australia. And I just don't understand why eBay is so inconsistent with the way they hand out their tools to be able to do the job. I think it's massively unfair.
There's very inconsistencies all over the world, like even in pricing of like auctions and stuff. Like we have to pay insertion fees on auctions until recently, and that's only because of the COVID stuff that's coming, that they're sort of waiving those, and we don't have access to any like eBay packaging or anything like that for free that a lot of Americans get. So it's very different, and sometimes Australia gets tested first. Sort of carrying on from the shipping stuff, she sees style.
She sees style. I haven't seen
try and say
before.
that 10 times.
She sees style. She sees no, okay.
That's like that seashell one. Anyway, are you stopping international shipping on your items with longer delays? So we were talking to Kara about this earlier today, and we're still sending UK, US, and NZ.
Well, we're trying to, but we have an expensive parcel still sitting at the post office from a week ago that they haven't sent yet.
Which one?
Our Zelda game.
Oh, don't play that. Anyway, so we're sort of sending to the main locations, or at least trying to.
Yeah.
And that's the first one we've had an issue with. So
New Zealand's on the way, but the Australia Post has said that they are working with whatever airlines they can. So there's just delays.
Where was that one going? Was that US?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll get there.
It'll get there, but we're just waiting.
Bike contest is in. Nate's dropped in as well.
Hello,
a few more dropping in. So are you still, you said you're doing GSP still and still happy?
Yeah, absolutely. I've only ever sent internationally via GSP, and I know people, there's people that don't have a particularly high opinion of it. Personally, I've never had an issue. with anything that's gone through the GSP. And I find it to be a really good sort of secure service, both for buyers and sellers. Obviously, you do get the odd buyer saying, you know, the shipping's expensive, whatever. And I just have to sort of say to them, you know, unfortunately, the international shipping price is out of my hands because eBay dictate what that is. And quite often, just being able to talk to people, you can kind of overcome that objection by saying, you know, it's a very secure service. You know, if anything goes wrong, etc., they'll deal with it for you. And you know, I've never had any issues with it. I think it works quite well for me and the way I do things. But obviously, everybody's experience is different. So
yeah,
I'd like the opportunity to try it.
Yeah. So we just have to post through Australia Post, and then it can be quite expensive. But yeah, I don't know. It kind of at least it opens up the world to us a little bit, but it's weird times because like Rob did his thing the other day and he was showing all the places that are like either delayed, closed, or you can't get stuff to. So
yeah,
interesting times. Captain Opshop Nerd Toby, what are your thoughts on eBay's easy pricing tool? Do you have that over there where it tells you that like after a certain amount of time it'll drop it to this price, and then after a certain amount of time it'll drop it to this price?
Yeah, I've seen that on the eBay app as well, and I've never used it, to be honest with you. I'll set my prices, thanks. I'll control my prices. I don't need eBay to do that for me. You know, it's no secret that I don't set out to be the cheapest person on eBay. I set out to be in the top third of prices for any products that I list. So it's kind of a case of I've always got room to potentially sort of drop the price a little bit, or you know, negotiate that way, and I'll manage that myself. I don't want to turn that over to eBay and let them just kind of chip away at prices for me, because you can't keep up with stuff then either. You know,
that's like my opinion as well.
Yeah, you know, I've got like I think about 900 items on my store currently. I know you guys have got a couple of thousand on your main store. So imagine if eBay are sort of ticking away, dropping prices on, you know, your couple of thousand items there. You're not going to know what's changed from one day to the next and stuff like that. So no
way I'm turning that on. I think that like there's better options. So if you want to be doing that, you can, you know, pick it up at the end of the cycle of the 30 days, or it was 45 for a weird period there. But the 30-day period, you could pick it up at the end of it. And if you're really worried about it, drop it, you know, 5-10%, and then if you're worried about it again, drop it 20 or 25 the next time. But I don't think using their sort of product is beneficial in any respect. It doesn't.
No, because it seems to default to something like 20% or something like that as well, that it takes off, and that seems to be, you know, that to me is quite a lot of potential profit to have taken out of your hands if an automated system's doing that for you instead.
I'd much rather play with my promoted listings and up them potentially and get my item in front of more people, especially at the moment when people are buying. We're talking a little bit beforehand about that. And yeah, I think at the moment using promoted to your advantage is a massive advantage. Like I was saying before we went live, we've had our biggest sales like volume today in our whole thrifting career because we are messing with our promoted and we're getting our item in front of the people that are buying. So
yeah, definitely. I've seen a big shift in what I normally do as well in that respect, because ordinarily I do, you know, I'd sell fewer items for higher profits, and lately it has definitely flipped to being more of a volume-based model, where I'm shifting a lot more stuff but making less money on it. But it is kind of balancing out on aggregate, so I can't complain too much there because it is shifting items out as well. So, but yeah, it's definitely been a switch.
Definitely. Shout out to Nathan 14711 for the $5 super chat.
Thank
really
you
appreciate
so much.
that. Thank you very much. Didn't leave a comment, so maybe he wants us to be quiet for a couple of seconds. That's probably what
moment silence. Back to it.
So yeah, I think that promoted is definitely the way to go at the moment. And just putting your item in front of the people that are buying, because obviously everyone's working from home. A lot of people are working from home, isolated, and they're not going out to the stores. So if you're putting your items in front of people, you're hopefully going to get the sale. And we're sort of talking before we went on about all the stuff that is selling at the moment, stuff that's been sitting around for, you know, times like jigsaw puzzles. Like we got caught up in the Ken Duncan stuff a while back, and we've almost sold out now. I think we've got one left out of about 6 that we had. So, and you mentioned before that you bought a whole bunch right at the start, and you
when I first got started, you know, I went full time in September 2018, so I was very conscious of the fact Christmas was coming up, and I bought tons and tons of jigsaws, probably, you know, around 100 if not more jigsaws all told. I sold a reasonable number of them that first Christmas, but since then they've just dripped out, you know, one every couple of months or whatever. But since this whole COVID business has kicked off, I sold about 40 of them, and I'm down to about 12 left.
Wow.
So it's just, it's crazy, really, the sort of things that are coming out of the woodwork, and colouring books I've been selling, and like craft kits and stuff like that as well. Just things that are boredom busters for adults and kids, really, and stuff that they can do together, because obviously a lot of kids are being homeschooled. Breathe. A lot of kids are being homeschooled and stuff like that as well. Sorry, I was just completely talking. But yeah, so there's kids being homeschooled and stuff like that as well. So having stuff that parents can do with their kids that's kind of educational and fun and stuff like that. All of those types of things seem to be going at the moment, as well as obviously things like video games, DVDs, you know, the just kind of entertainment stuff as well. So
home stuff.
Yeah, you know what? We've been selling a lot of ink, printed ink, because people are using inks at their home that they usually don't use. And we've been selling like, we still sell expired ink. We just put in the description and title, and we refund if anyone has an issue. We've been selling them like hotcakes because we undercut the you know, the new ones, obviously.
Yeah.
People were happy to buy them at that undercut rate, knowing that if they don't work, they're going to get a refund. So
you think like home office and also like home repairs.
Yeah, gardening apparently is going to change. So if you've got any gardening stuff and you don't want it, maybe chuck that up.
No, I sold again, you know, just I bought some sort of end of range stuff a couple of years ago, and I've sold like spools and stuff for strimmers, and you know, things like that as well have been going out. Yeah, definitely the kind of, I think people are taking, certainly in the UK, I think people are taking this isolation and quarantine thing as an opportunity to get those little jobs around the house done that they've maybe not been doing while they've been working and stuff like that. Although in the UK they have considered DIY stores as being an essential business to keep open. So people can still go out and get these things. I do think there's very much a feeling of they don't want to go out. A lot of people, you know, they want to, you know, they'd rather just stay in and have it sent to their door. So
definitely
plays into our hands, I guess.
Zahir's dropped in the chat as well. Thanks for coming, Zahir. Good to see you. Sellers could produce a buying.
Do not put me on vocals.
No. Let's catch up. Pro Streamer Z's here. I wonder how Zahir's toot's going.
Oh, no one wants to go to the dentist at the moment
Drew's
either.
talking about the Dymo, best investment they bought. We still don't have a Dymo.
We cut our labels out with scissors.
But
I write them on with a Sharpie.
There you go.
I still write addresses on the envelopes, take them to the post office, get the post office to stamp them and everything. Old school, you know.
Yeah, just
like I say, normally I don't do a massive volume, so doing it like that isn't kind of such a big deal to me as a rule. But lately, because the volume's been up, you know, I am finding sort of writing all these envelopes getting a little bit tedious. So I might have to potentially invest in something like that myself.
I think you sell 40 puzzles and you're writing them all.
I think it shows though that like reselling is open to anybody. Like you don't have to have a printer, or you don't have to have a lighting setup. You don't have to have a camera. When you get a phone and you can access the internet, you can resell. So
absolutely. There's no, and I've said this on a lot of people's streams and on my own channel and stuff like that as well. It's kind of one of my mantras that reselling is for absolutely everybody. There's no barrier to entry on it. You know, there's no glass ceiling, no gender pay gap. You're not going to be discriminated against because of your race or your gender or your sexuality or anything like that. You can just start doing it and making money on your own terms and not having to, you know, be beholden to, you know, a arsehole boss or whatever.
I love it.
Yeah, you saying that and talking about like your experience of how you got into reselling kind of just, it almost relights the flame for me, because like I'm lucky enough in that I've still got my full-time job, and I enjoy what I'm doing now because it's different. But 12 months ago, I was like really struggling in my work, and reselling was like, you know, the light at the end of the tunnel. So it's kind of shifted though because of what's happened with your work. It's kind of your like light at the end of the tunnel now.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy how these things come around and just change up, and you know, your priorities shift, your experience shifts, and stuff like that. It's crazy.
I never thought that I would be striving to be a full-time reseller. Because when you first started, I was like, "That's your thing, man. That's your hobby. Keep it to yourself."
It's funny. My wife Jo's been a little bit like that as well. You know, she came into it and kind of like, yeah, I'll help you where you need help and stuff like that, because like the photography aspect of things, for one, you know, my wife's got photography qualifications and stuff, whereas I'd never really, you know, had to take photos of items. I'd kind of done a little bit in the jewelry trade and stuff like that, but and taking photos of cars and stuff, but never really photographed stuff never had to sort of set my own criteria for what the photographs looked like. I was always working to somebody else's criteria or whatever. So it was kind of always easy to just go, yeah, do it that way. But having Jo's input and Jo's skill set on the photograph side of things, and on some of the sort of organizational aspects of things as well, a lot of the systems that I've got in place now have been either, you know, developed pretty much by Jo or with Jo's help. Because she has that much more organized thought process than me. I'm very much in the moment and doing what needs to be done now kind of thing, where Jo's very much more, she can see further down the line than I can. So kind of having that sort of dynamic really helps.
I think having someone to sort of pull you up in stages along the way and say, hey, let's look at this way, or let's try something different in this area, because a lot of time you're going to get set in the rut that you know, and you're not going to branch outside that. So I think Jared's challenging me on a few things and saying, hey, let's try this, let's price this at that, let's try, you know, adding postage onto this to see what happens. It kind of changes your whole perspective. So having someone, whether that's a partner or someone in the reselling community that you can sort of bounce off of, it really helps.
Sorry, I'm only laughing because
he sold a toilet seat today.
Okay, what?
Denny's in. Thanks for coming, Denny. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well, mate.
Who sold any toilet seats?
Nathan was saying that he's just started reselling.
Cool.
Good luck with all your journey. If we can help you at all, send us a DM on Instagram or whatever, and we'll try and help you out however we can.
Definitely.
Especially in these times, it's good that everyone can stick together. I hope everything's going well. Everyone's welcoming. My mum's saying she uses eBay frequently to buy craft supplies and various other items, as we don't have a lot of shops here in Streaky Bay. eBay is great. There you go.
Good on you, Mum.
Braden's in. Anyone else going crazy with Facebook Marketplace? I've switched completely to anything gaming related, consoles, etc. Yeah, we've been selling a bit on Facebook Marketplace. We are a bit sketchy with it because of like the interaction that you have to have, but it's just about setting those sort of safety barriers, I suppose.
It's working though.
I do need to catch up with the chat because we lost it quite a bit.
We do that.
Let's find something that.
I personally, I don't use Facebook Marketplace. I'm not on Facebook or anything like that. It's just I find it more of a for me personally. And again, I always talk about things being in terms of what works for you. So I have no, not begrudging anybody that does business on Facebook or does whatever on Facebook. But to me personally, I've always found Facebook to be kind of one of those places where it's very easy to get sort of sucked into a bit of a clique or whatever, and kind of what my personal experience again of Facebook groups, and this is going back a little bit of a while now, it's not not necessarily current, but my personal experience of it was that I was in quite a large Facebook group for a while, the UK reselling group, and because it was such a kind of all of the same people in that one group, all of the ideas that were being kicked around were quite often the same ideas. And it just kind of became a bit of an echo chamber of the same things going round and round again and again and again. So when that big group did ultimately disband and made a lot of smaller groups, I thought it'd be great because then, there'd be a lot of different opinions and different ideas forming in these different groups. But then my experience of it was it just felt like high school, and it was all these different cliques, and you were either with one clique or the other. And I just thought, what, sod Facebook, I'm off it. So I left it completely and went onto Instagram instead. And I find Instagram's a much nicer social network for me because you can kind of build your own community of the individuals and the people that you want to be in contact with, rather than having to kind of be subjected to people that are in groups that you wouldn't necessarily normally interact with.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I think that's got definitely validity behind it. We'll drop.
Just nodding.
We'll drop. We've got a couple more questions from Instagram. One from Cara, so we'll bring that up as well. If anyone has any questions for Andy before we head off tonight, please drop them in the chat.
Oh, this is going to be fast.
Do have one more.
Yes, we
what's
do.
That called?
Postcard.
A postcard. I forgot what a postcard's called. So going well. Postcard before we go. But Cara's question was a pretty serious one. So what do you think? Nice and hard about this one. If you could eat one thing that says thong for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Pasta.
Pasta? That was quick. What about you, Andy?
One thong.
I don't know, man. That's too hard. That's like asking me to choose. That's like asking me a question about music. And if you've seen me answering any questions about music on Instagram, I can never give a straightforward answer. I guess for the sake of a quick and easy answer, probably steak. I'm one of those terrible carnivorous people that nobody likes in the modern world. But yeah, I like meat. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a meat eater. I like steak, so probably a nice steak. I could eat that every day.
Pasta, steak, and
probably a chicken palmy. I smash chicken palmy.
You do love a chicken palmy.
I don't know. That's tough though. I think I'd get sick of that at some point. So I don't know. That's a very tough question for a non-serious.
Brad will get back to us next week.
I did kind of wreck that
the
one.
The burning issue.
Big Macs, pizza.
Pizza's a good one because pizza can kind of be very broad and
Toby said he would eat Havianas.
Yeah, fair play. Yeah. That's a solid pick for thongs, definitely.
Oh,
that's classic. That is. Queen of that was me smelling mistakes.
Queen of smelling mistakes.
Georgina's gone.
Perfection.
Well, bloody eats his noodles all the time. Spuds, lobster. Georgina's got some expensive taste, and I'll go pasta. Well, that kind of spiced things up, didn't it? So we'll let the chat catch up a little bit, and if anyone has any questions for Andy, please drop them in. What we're going to do real quick is just read out the postcard that we got this week.
And it's from the UK.
This one is from the UK, so it does have a bit of relevance to the stream. So it's from Tori. So, hi guys, greetings from the UK. Fact about my hometown, famous for being at the heart of the Industrial Revolution. The bridge on the postcard is 5 minutes from my home. How amazing is that? Keep up the good work. And there's a photo of
Iron Bridge. Yeah.
That's wicked.
Do you know where that is, Andy?
I know of it. It's not somewhere I've ever been, but Iron Bridge is kind of one of those famous sort of landmarks in a way, because it was designed and built by sort of one of the most famous Victorian engineers, Isambard Kingdom Brunel. So it's kind of quite a well-renowned thing in that respect, but I've never been.
It's fascinating to us because Australia is so young in those terms, not in
historic
terms, but in terms of infrastructure, like we just don't have things that are old.
It's like our oldest building is 100 years old.
Yeah, it's a weird one because I always, I think people never understand the scale of Australia either. I don't think, and when you guys were talking on a stream the other week, I think, I don't know whether it was Wide World or Reselling or whatever, but you were talking about something and it was like, oh yeah, we don't have that in our state, and you just think, hang on, what? The concept of not having something in one part of the country that you can get in another part of the country is really weird, because obviously the UK is quite small, so we can just, I can go to London and get the same things that I can get in Glasgow or Cardiff or whatever, and get all the same things at all the different parts of the country. But obviously Australia is absolutely vast and people don't realise, and like you say, it's not that old either in terms of kind of settled, civilization.
Kara's saying that our historic building is a chicken shop down the road. Gary's come through with a question: favorite item to thrift, and what's your holy grail thrift item?
Yeah, some of my favorite items to pick up. I love vintage office equipment and electronics, and I also love vintage grooming stuff. as well. Old razors are really are a favourite of mine. Definitely sort of the old safety razors, Gillette safety razors. They tend to sell quite well. And on that front, there is the Gillette President, I think it's called, which is kind of a gold-plated safety razor from around about the 1930s. If you look at the Gillette President on eBay, you'll see that they've sold for, I think, about $2,000, somewhere around those sort of. From memory, I could be wrong there. It could be a bit less, but you know, they've sold for a ridiculously high figure. These Gillette President razors.
£2,000 as well.
Say again.
Is that £2,000?
No, I think it was US dollars. Was what I saw it in.
Still Australian dollars.
Yeah, definitely. You know, safety razors. There is an amazing market for them, and I think because. For a couple of reasons. For one, obviously, people are moving away a lot more from using plastics and reusable plastics and stuff like that these days. So a lot of the older safety razors are all metal construction. You don't throw the razor itself away. You just change the blade. So for that reason, I think they're gaining a bit of popularity again. And also, you've got kind of the hipster sort of mentality where they kind of want to use the vintage stuff just to be seen to be using it. And also, they're just generally a very good product. The first couple that I picked up, I thought, after I'd cleaned them up and everything, I thought, actually, if these don't end up selling, I'll just use them.
Yeah.
Because they are that good of a product. They've stood the test of time, and they you know, very much usable today. So safety razors are a great one. And in terms of the holy grail of safety razors, the Gillette President is definitely up there. In terms of holy grails on other stuff that I look out for, and things that I may never potentially find, there's a Casio G-Shock watch, which is a collaboration with the rapper Redman. So the G-Shock Redman collaboration is quite a nice watch, and I think if I ever got hold of one of those, I wouldn't sell it. I think I'd just keep that just for my own sort of. I don't really collect anything, but there's certain things that I just often think, you know, if that ever came up, would I be able to sell it? And I don't mean would I be able to sell it in terms of would it sell. I mean, would I be able to sell it in terms of would I want to keep it or not? You know what I mean? So those are a couple of mine, definitely. Yeah. To be honest, I used to be that way myself. Either El Presidente, yeah.
You will buy anything that says retro vintage.
Pretty much, yeah. Not far wrong, yeah.
Zahir's
dropping the hip hop in the chat there, yeah, definitely.
Dropping some knowledge bombs in the chat.
He knows what's hip.
That's what's happening.
What's hip and lit.
Lit. You know what I haven't seen in a while is Zahir as a pickle. Now that was some lit content there.
Bring back pickles Zahir.
I do want to ask you, Andy. From everything that I've seen of you, you're able to sort of like break things down, and you kind of, you know, you have a good understanding of a lot of things. I sort of am looking at the next 6 months, and I'm kind of trying to work out what's going to happen in the reselling space and what the future of reselling looks like if we're in isolation for that long period of time. So where do you see reselling in 6 months' time? What do you think it's going to look like? Do you think there's going to be a lot of stores selling their stock and we're going to be able to pick that stuff up because they can't trade anymore? Or do you think it's going to become quite scarce for us finding stuff? Or
I think one of the sad facts of this is it is going to kill some businesses. That is definitely going to be one of the sad facts in terms of, you know, general consumers and the high street and things like that. It is going to kill some stores and some companies off. In terms of how that will affect us as resellers, then yes, certainly there's going to potentially be more X sort of chain store or X name brand stock that we might be able to get hold of through liquidation companies and things like that. So there's definitely that potential there. In terms of what it's going to look like for eBay, I think my initial feeling at the moment is that there's a lot of people coming back to eBay at the moment that maybe haven't used it for quite a while, or are generally sort of getting a little bit more switched on to online shopping because they can't go out and just buy the things on the street that they would normally buy. So I would think that will kind of have the effect of bringing more people, bringing more attention to the online marketplaces. So I think we will see a bit of an uplift in the long term. But how long it takes for that to come through is going to be, you know, the thing that's up in the air. There's going to be more opportunities for us as resellers, I think, like I say, to sort of pick up this product and infrastructure from these businesses that are closing. And that does sound a little bit like a, you know, a little bit vulturous to say that, but it's a fact. You know, we've got to get our stock from somewhere. We've got to do what we can. But yeah, I think it is going to have, I think it's going to have a lasting positive effect, but how long it takes to get to having that positive effect is going to be the bit that's up in the air.
I think, yeah, I tend to agree long term. I think, especially here in Australia where people don't really have too many platforms to go to, like we have Amazon, but it's very underutilized and probably not really mainstream yet. eBay is the one that kind of is ruling the market. And I guess if people are having to shop from home, and if they're getting a good experience in these times, then maybe they're going to come back when everything has gone back to normal. Instead of shopping at the brick and mortar, they know that they can buy it, get it delivered to their door, and not have to worry about it. So even if stores manage to stay open, I think you'll probably see a bit of a shift from brick and mortar to online, more so in Australia. We're probably a more brick and mortar store country generally. But I think this will probably shift things a little bit over to that other side. So
having been on both sides, it's like, it's such a shame that brick and mortar is struggling. But then I'm like, oh, the grass is greener. So
you got to
you know, I feel very much the same as that. You know, I've come from, you know, traditional bricks and mortar high street retail and kind of, you know, being in a physical building selling stuff. And yeah, I do sort of feel bad for the high street, and I do feel bad for the people that work for a lot of these retailers as well as the companies themselves. You know, there's old established companies that are potentially going to suffer for this. But you know, like you say, is it just a sign of changing times altogether that things are moving more towards that kind of online presence? I think as well, it's very important at times like this where we have potentially got people shopping online who haven't really had an online shopping experience before, perhaps, or who have had a limited experience of it. I think it's very important at these times that your customer service is on point, because people are going to be coming. There are potentially people going to be coming to shop online who have an expectation of service from shopping on the high street. And obviously not everybody provides that service online. So I think your customer service is definitely going to have to be a skill that everybody can pull out, particularly in times like this. And definitely at the moment as well, I'd be saying, get whatever you can, whenever you can, you know, because at the moment there is still that sort of cloud of uncertainty of exactly what's going to happen. Sell what you can and sell it when you can for as much as you can get for it, and just kind of keep persevering as much as you can.
100%.
Pat Tees has dropped in as well. Thanks for popping in.
G'day, Pat. Good morning. On the topic of customer service as well, I think we don't think so much about customer attention when we don't have a customer in front of us. We're not thinking about getting them back in the store next time. But when someone has a bad experience on eBay, they tend to leave the platform, not just your store.
Yeah. Quite right.
So it's like
it's important that like everyone's trying to, you know, secure those sales and do them well. And you know, I think one thing that shipping is a bit slower. So communicating with your buyer when stuff gets like stuck in between transit, just explaining to them that it's on the way. Here's the tracking. You can see that it's coming. You know, if you don't get it within this time, please contact me. All that sort of stuff will definitely help.
Ordinarily, I would say it's a very delicate balancing act between being attentive to your customer and potentially over communicating with your customer and alienating them. You know, having worked in the motor trade, if anybody out there has ever bought a new car or been to a car dealership and left them your phone number, you'll know how many times they ring you trying to sell you that car after the fact and how annoying that gets. So I'm very conscious of that sort of over communication being something that can potentially alienate customers. But at the moment, because of the times we're in and because of the uncertainty with postage and, you know, things like that, I do think it is prudent to sort of have a little bit more dialogue with your customers and a little bit more, you know, so you just kind of reassurance for them as much as anything. Yeah,
definitely. I think, now's the time to sort of be extending that, you know, olive branch and saying like, you know, it's here. I'm probably gonna have to reach out to that guy that bought the Zelda thing tonight because that was a crazy sale and I don't want it to become a problem. But yeah, I think, you know, communicating where you can, trying to, I guess, accepting offers when they're reasonable, and getting that customer in your store, because you're right, like we don't know how long this thing's going to last for. It could be over in 3 months, it could be 9 months, it could be 12 months. Nobody knows. So if you can get a customer back to you at some point, it's only going to benefit you and other people as well. So yeah, plenty of time to be servicing. So we're pretty much at the hour point, which is going crazy fast. So I do want to thank you for your time and coming and hanging out with us. We really appreciate, firstly, all your support. Your comments on videos are,
I was going to say something
like
about that.
Next level. You go so in depth with your response, and you can tell that you've put effort into watching the video and understanding what the video is about. So thank you for supporting not only us but a lot of other Australians. And I think we're all looking
big
for that
love for the Aussie reselling community.
We're very lucky here in that our community is, you know, pretty small, and all try and support each other. So I think we're in a good space going forward. So yeah, thanks for your support. If you guys haven't subbed to Andy the Mad Tatter, I have dropped the link in the bottom of the chat as well. I did notice that I'd got unsubbed, so I had to resub to him the other day.
What are you doing?
I don't know. So I've noticed on a few accounts that I've been like unsubbed and had to resub. It happened to me.
Are you the one then that kept going when my subs kept going 998, 999, 998, 999 for about 3 days? That was you.
Just to annoy you. Just to annoy you. Like, I'm just gonna
Click.
No, I've had it happen to about 3 or 4 of them where I was subbed like quite a while ago, and then all of a sudden it's dropped off again. So I don't.
Yeah, it's weird. The notifications are all over the place at the moment as well, to be honest with you, because I got the notification for this stream starting when we were about 10 minutes in. So the notifications are all over the place, you know. It's crackers at the minute. But I think that's probably just down to load as much as anything, because there's probably so many more people using YouTube than there is normally at this time of day. So it's probably an element of that.
Flippers are helping us out.
That's the way.
Don't forget to get some cheesy
weasel. You could have been in our band with expressions like that.
Oh, he would have got it. He would have fit in real well, I reckon. Sent something on the 20th of Feb, got there today, 1 of 10 items from the same day, not delivered.
It's just all going to be a bit slow, my dudes.
Yeah. So thanks everyone for coming along. As I said before, I've dropped Andy's link in the description. If you haven't gone over there, go check him out. Leave him a sub. Leave him a detailed comment like he does for everyone else. And we want to thank Andy for his time and his support.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure. You know, you two are my favourites. I'll go on record as saying you are 2 of my favourite resellers out there, and one of my favourite channels out there. So more than happy to come on and talk to you guys anytime. Not a problem at all.
Wow, thank you.
Thanks, Andy. Yeah, that's far more than we expect. But yeah, thanks everyone for coming. Andy, you can stick around a little bit afterwards if you like.
Thank you, Tori, for the postcard. Your pin is on the board.
Yeah, and thanks everyone for the super chats tonight. Really appreciate it. Not expected, but yeah, it is greatly appreciated. So thanks everyone for coming. Stay safe, everyone. Stay well. Try and stay home where you can, and hopefully we can all get back to our normal life shortly. All right.
Take it easy, everybody.
Good night.